this is one of the biggest fumbles ever from Nike and the WNBA combined. They've blown the zenith of Caitlin Clark's popularity. I'm not sure if it's ever going to recover.
They have absolutely blown it. But it was pointed out in the article, and you pointed it out. This was 100% about not wanting backlash from Black people, because at this time, Asia Wilson was also doing a bunch of public complaining about her shoe not coming out yet and things like that. So they stayed away from the Caitlin Clark thing.
Jason Whitlock just pulled the pin on a massive grenade, and the explosion is rocking the entire WNBA. He is calling it the biggest fumble of a golden goose in sports history. They had a once-in-a-century superstar in Caitlin Clark, and instead of building a throne, the powers that be decided to set $200 million on fire. This was not just a mistake or a bad business day. According to Whitlock, this was a calculated act of sabotage designed to protect the feelings of the establishment. The silence from the Indiana Fever front office is deafening, but the numbers do not lie. They have managed to do the impossible. They have cooled off the hottest brand in the world.
Attention to what's going on with probably, I believe, your most popular client. But I believe her agent, Erin Kane, has dropped the ball as well. And this has been the biggest fumble of a golden goose for a league that has needed a face and a superstar. Boy, did they do a great job ruining it.
Charles, do we think she can recover? Go ahead.
Let's go back to the first part of the question. I think it was a bad miscalculation by Nike. And I think it's very, very safe to say that when she came out, and Maurice is right, that shoe should have been ready.
The core of the outrage stems from a shocking revelation about Nike's refusal to launch Clark's signature shoe. Imagine having the most popular athlete on the planet, and choosing to leave her products in the warehouse. Whitlock argues that Nike intentionally delayed the release, because they were terrified of the backlash from other players like Asia Wilson. It is a move that defies every rule of capitalism. Usually Nike is in the business of green, but in this case they chose politics over profit. They essentially paid a multi-million-dollar payoff to the rest of the league by keeping Clark brand suppressed while her momentum was at its peak.
I thought Nike loved money. I thought Nike was in the business of green, not black and white. And if they were in the business of green, as Charles said, that shoe would have been out as soon as she got drafted. They would have had that shoe out within a couple of months. But because they had to cater to all these black women are going to complain that we didn't put their shoe out first, they put out the loser shoe, the Asia Wilson shoe, and now they're finally getting around to the Caitlin Clark shoe. And they've lost millions, tens of millions of dollars, probably hundreds of millions of dollars by getting this shoe out late. And Caitlin Clark's star has dwindled in this process. So I have never seen Nike do anything like this. Nike usually does what they need to do to capitalize.
Whitlock is snapping over what he calls the zenith of her popularity being blown. He believes the WNBA and Nike have officially fumbled the bag so hard that the brand may never fully recover. The window to capitalize on that magical college run was wide open, and they slammed it shut on purpose. It is pointed out that this was 100% about not wanting backlash from those who were publicly complaining about their own shoe deals. By staying away from the Caitlin Clark launch, they signaled that they care more about social optics than they do about the actual fans who were ready to spend their hard-earned money on a new pair of sneakers.
Though I don't think they miscalculated. I think they did it on purpose.
Yes. Maurice?
Wait a minute. Are y'all telling me y'all said Nike said, hey, let's go in the backyard and put about $200 million in the fire pit here and smoke some cigars and have some drinks.
Yeah, $200 million that they didn't make. They burned up $200 million of imaginary money. They never made it because they didn't put the shoe out. Nike usually doesn't make that kind of, that's not a mistake. That's intentional.
I think Nike, instead of us saying they lost money, Nike paid money to not face backlash from black people who would have been very upset that Asia Wilson shoe had.
The numbers are starting to show the damage of this alleged sabotage. WNBA All-Star voting is reportedly down by more than 2 million votes compared to the previous season. Even Clark's own individual vote counts are taking a hit, as the product on the floor fails to live up to the massive hype. Whitlock places the blame squarely on a four-headed monster, the WNBA league office, the Indiana Fever front office, Nike, and Clark's own agent, Aaron Kane. He is questioning if anyone is actually paying attention to the most popular client in the world. It is a masterclass in how to ruin a superstar, and the sports world is watching it happen in real time.
Jordan, she had a better brand, and that is all factually true in my opinion. And if you sit there and look, and if I'm sitting there and look, it's so crystal clear to me. It's like, man, we got a white woman, heterosexual, who isn't unattractive. Like, she's box office. She can sell shoes. Every suburban dad and mom couldn't wait to put their child in Caitlin Clark's shoes. How did she only get a $28 million contract? And I had to learn this in television. Like, hey man, you can be more talented.
A major point of contention is the comparison to the legends of the past. When Michael Jordan entered the league, Nike did not wait 3 years to see if he was ready for a shoe. They struck while the iron was hot, but with Caitlin Clark, they are playing a dangerous game of delay. Whitlock argues that her official sneaker should have been in every store in America before she ever set foot on a professional court. Instead, they let the fire die down while they waited for other players to get their turn. It is a form of corporate reparations that has cost the company tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, in potential revenue.
Would have sold like hotcakes. I mean, it was a can't-miss
item.
opportunity.
Well, if you
It
look
would have been a
at
collector's item. You know what? For perspective, Drake, think about this. Sebastian Telfair, in a time when there was no social media, in 2004, he comes out and pretty much fresh out of high school, comes out and get pretty much the same financial shoe deal from Adidas that Caitlin Clark, the biggest internet sensation through college basketball, the girl, she was the hottest thing. She was off the hook.
The sabotage narrative deepens when you look at how the Indiana Fever have handled her transition. Whitlock and his team suggest that the coaching and front office, including figures like Stephanie White, who have been linked to the team's orbit, are dropping the ball on the actual basketball product. The excitement is dwindling because the system around her is not built to showcase her unique talents. It feels like she is being forced to fit into a box, rather than being allowed to be the revolutionary force she was in college. If you wanted to kill the momentum of a rising star, this is exactly how you would script it from the inside out.
attacking, Sebastian Telfair's team went for the jugular to get that check. LeBron's team went for that $100 million. Michael Jordan's team went for that deal with Nike. Caitlin Clark's team looks like a bunch of women. Her agent is a woman. Women don't go for the jugular the way that men do. Women don't have the same testosterone, the same internal drive. We are on here, and consistently since Caitlin Clark's come out, Jason, you have episodes talking about, Caitlin, this needs to happen. This needs to be in place. This can work. This will work. They need to change things this way. That's because you're a man. You have the drive, and you are willing to kick down doors, ruffle some feathers, and piss some people off in order to get things the way.
One of the most controversial takes in this expose is the idea that Nike is paying money to avoid backlash. Whitlock compares the situation to the massive amounts of money funneled into social movements that saw no financial return. He calls it a welfare payoff to other players who have not captivated the public imagination the way Clark has. Even though A'ja Wilson is arguably the better player right now, she does not sell shoes like a flashy guard does. Nike knows this, yet they chose to prioritize the feelings of the locker room over the demands of the global market. It is a move that has left business experts scratching their heads.
She probably needs a LeVar Ball type daddy. That, you know, as much as we may criticize LeVar Ball, he's got a pair. And if LeVar Ball, remember he was out there talking about, I'm going to start the Baller brand and we're going to take on Nike.
Oh, he started it.
Yeah, all that. You needed someone with that type of balls and vision. And again, he was wrong and it didn't happen. But if he had had Caitlin Clark, it would have happened. Instead, you know, he got 3 light-skinned sons that all love to tat themselves up and injury prone or whatever. But Caitlin Clark.
The role of her agent, Aaron Kane, is under intense scrutiny. Whitlock is absolutely baffled by the $28 million contract Clark signed coming out of college. For context, LeBron James was getting $100 million back in 2003. When you adjust for inflation and the power of social media, $28 million looks like an insult. The argument is that her representation failed to set the market. They did not walk into the room and demand the moon. Instead, they took a deal that kept her in a specific pecking order, ensuring she did not outshine the established stars of the Nike stable before she was given permission. Whitlock's critique takes a sharp turn toward the gender dynamics of these negotiations. He suggests that Clark's team lacked the testosterone and the killer instinct needed to demand what she was truly worth. While legends like Jordan had agents who would go for the jugular, Clark's team seemingly folded under the pressure of being polite. They did not want to ruffle feathers or deal with the political blowback of a white heterosexual woman becoming the highest-paid face of the league. So, they accepted a mediocre deal and allowed Nike to dictate the pace of her brand growth, effectively neutering her economic power. There is a fascinating comparison made to Sebastian Telfair, a high school phenom from 2004 who got a similar shoe deal to what Clark got in 2024. How is it possible that 20 years later, with the entire internet behind her, the biggest sensation in sports is getting the same money as a high schooler from the pre-social media era? It points to a massive failure in leadership. Whitlock argues that the people around her were more interested in getting along with the WNBA establishment than they were in getting what was fair for their client. It is a cautionary tale of what happens when you let politics drive your business decisions. The sabotage also manifests in the way Clark is being judged on the court. Whitlock points out how the goalposts are constantly shifting. When she has a high-scoring game with great percentages, the critics want to talk about her technical fouls or her leadership. But the moment she has a bad shooting night, the analytics crowd comes out of the woodwork to claim she was never that good. It is a coordinated effort to diminish her impact and make her seem like just another player rather than the box office attraction she proved to be at Iowa. They are trying to rewrite the narrative before she can even finish her first season. The fear of the black audience is another layer that Whitlock exposes. He believes the agents and Nike executives were told that Clark would not connect with the inner city or hip-hop culture, which is where they believe shoe sales live and die. But Whitlock calls this a total bluff. He argues that her real fan base includes a massive number of black men who love the way she plays because she plays like a dude. By buying into the false narrative that she had no street cred, her team allowed Nike to lowball her and delay her product launch. They ignored the actual data in favor of outdated stereotypes. The damage to the brand might be permanent if something does not change fast. Whitlock notes that you can see the energy shifting when you watch a Fever game. The national interest is not what it was 6 months ago. The perfect storm of the college Final Four has passed and the WNBA has failed to build a proper levee to keep that water in. Instead of a flood of new revenue and fans, they are seeing a slow leak. Nike's miscalculation or intentional calculation has resulted in a product that feels late to the party. By the time the shoe finally drops, the casual fans might have already moved on to the next big thing. What makes Whitlock so angry is the idea that Nike, a company known for being ruthless in pursuit of profit, suddenly hates money. He argues that they are leaning so hard into DEI and identity politics that they are willing to lose hundreds of millions of dollars just to avoid a few angry tweets from within the league. It is a complete reversal of the strategy that made them a global powerhouse. Usually, they find the person who moves the needle and they put them front and center. With Caitlin Clark, they found the person who moves the needle and decided to bury her in the back of the catalog. The discussion also touches on the missed opportunity with other brands. If Clark had signed with a company like Under Armour or a startup, she would have been the entire wheel, not just a spoke. At Nike, she is just another name on a long list of athletes they have to keep happy. A smaller brand would have had the urgency to get her shoe out on day one because their entire business would have depended on it. By going with the safe choice of Nike, she entered a crowded environment where her success was actually seen as a threat to the existing hierarchy and the established pecking order. Sonny Vaccaro, the man who signed Michael Jordan, recently said that Caitlin Clark had a bigger brand coming out of college than Jordan did. Let that sink in for a second. The godfather of the sneaker world thinks she was a bigger sure thing than the greatest player of all time. And yet, she was treated like a mid-level prospect by the marketing giants. Whitlock says this confirms his theory that there is an active effort to suppress her rise. You do not treat a bigger than Jordan asset this way unless you have a specific reason to keep them from reaching their full financial and cultural potential. The sabotage narrative is further bolstered by the lack of protection Clark receives on the court. Whitlock and his panel discuss how she is being physically targeted while the league and her own team seem to watch from the sidelines. It is all part of a get-along-to-go-along culture that is stifling her greatness. A true superstar needs a team that is willing to kick down doors and ruffle feathers to ensure their star is treated with respect. Instead, Clark is surrounded by people who seem more concerned with the feelings of her opponents than they are with her safety or her scoring average. Even the way her stats are reported feels like a slight. Whitlock mentions how critics will ignore a 30-point masterpiece to focus on a few missed layups or a turnover. They are looking for reasons to justify the lack of marketing push. It is a circular logic. They do not market her because she is struggling, but she is struggling because the organization has not built a winning environment around her. It is a trap designed to make her look like a bust so that the league can return to its status quo without having to acknowledge the massive impact she had on the game's popularity. The financial gap between what she is making and what she should be making is the smoking gun for Whitlock. He believes a bold agent would have demanded $100 million and walked away if they did not get it. By accepting $28 million, her team sent a signal that they were just happy to be there. This lack of leverage is exactly what the establishment wanted. They wanted her under their thumb, controlled by a contract that does not reflect her true value, so they could manage her ascent in a way that did not disturb the peace of the veteran players who were jealous of her shine. Could she still recover? Whitlock thinks it is possible, but it would require a heater like we have never seen in the history of the sport. She would have to go on a legendary run that forces the world to stop and watch again. But with the way the Fever are playing and the way the league is officiating her, that feels like an uphill battle. The sabotage has been so effective that she is fighting her own team, her own sponsors, and her own league just to stay relevant. It is an exhausting position for a young player to be in, and it is taking a visible toll on her performance. The final insult is the timing of the shoe release. After missing the entire rookie hype cycle, the sneaker is finally being teased at a time when the Caitlin mania has cooled significantly. It is the definition of too little, too late. Nike will likely point to the sales and say, "See, she didn't sell as well as we thought," ignoring the fact that they killed the momentum themselves. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy that allows them to move on to the next diversity-focused marketing campaign while burying the most profitable athlete they have had in years under a mountain of excuses. Whitlock snaps one last time on the idea that this was just a miscalculation. He insists it was intentional. You do not lose $200 million by accident when you are a global leader in retail. You do it because you have higher priority than money. In this case, that priority was maintaining a specific social order within women's sports. They sacrificed the golden goose to appease the beggars. It is a dark day for sports business, and it serves as a warning to any future superstar. If you do not have the right people in your corner, the machine will eat you alive. At the end of the day, the Caitlin Clark story is a tragedy of missed potential. She brought millions of new eyes to a league that desperately needed them, and in return she was met with sabotage and suppression. Whitlock's explosive take reminds us that the biggest games are often played in boardrooms, not on the court. If Clark wants to reclaim her throne, she might need to fire everyone around her and start over with a team that actually wants her to win. Until then, she remains a victim of a system that is more interested in being right than it is in being successful.